I thought they were married. And if that's the case, that's funny because Molly gets a name, but the old man just gets called the old man. So right there, he's cucked out right there. I mean, can you imagine the sex? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to really do that again? Yes, I'm going to do that again. Are you really going to stick it there? Yeah, I'm going to stick it there. I don't like when you stick it there. Stop sticking it there. I don't like when you stick it here. Stop sticking it there. Hey, honey, can you please don't queef on me again? I'm gonna do that there. Why do you always do that? I can't have an orgasm when you do that to me. This is why I don't like when you do this. This is why I don't have sex with you anymore. I just have my own. I have my dildo and I use that. All right, honey, you do what you want. I'll be your bitch. That's right. That's why my name's Molly and your name is Old Man because you don't get a name, you cuck. You don't get a name. I have big blue eyes and you have glasses. You're a dork. And you look like you have jaundice in this cartoon, by the way. We paid for this, and you have jaundice. Great. Great. Molly and the old man. Let's just get divorced. Nah, fuck that. I'm too bored and lazy to do that. Let's just review Star Trek and shit on everything. I won't like one thing from this fucking review, but we're gonna watch it anyway, and fuckity fuck fuck fuckity fuck. Let's go. Is that every day at your house, guys?
But when you had a group of them together, I was rolling my eyes. It felt so contrived. I just wish it would have been like a single cadet that, hey, aren't you Admiral Picard? Yes, I am. And then if there would have been a conversation.
Dude, here's a group of cadets are sitting over there, and they're talking, and they go, guys, Admiral Picard is here. He's over there. He's sitting here to eat. Oh my God, it is Admiral Picard. I read his story. I remember reading about his missions and this thing. And I've been a huge fan of that. I read that book too. I read this. Did you know that he was the first one to engage the Q and all these other? Oh my God! I know the Borg, and he became a. And then they go, let's go talk to him. I'll talk to him. You do it. No, I'll talk to him. And then a group of them go over there because they feel more confident as a group. Do you really need me to paint this fucking goddamn backstory that you don't fucking need? Do you want to see the backstory of how that happened? How 7 or 8 or 10 people came over to Admiral Picard? Do you really want that told on the screen? You want to waste time and talk about it? Sorry. I'm going to snap.
Stories. Then the kid asks again, but then Picard seems perfectly happy to start talking.
And to me, that was a little bit weird. Again, I know they're telling us to ignore the previous seasons.
Who is telling you to ignore the previous seasons So right now what they're doing is all right, I'm telling you to ignore the previous seasons if you want to. But I'm just a viewer. I'm a fan of the show. I'm not the show. The showrunners are not telling you to ignore the previous seasons. I don't believe that any showrunner has said, ignore all the previous stuff. It's not real. And now it's season 3. Nobody has said that. So right here, they're literally, so the old man is using like things that reviewers and Star Trek fans and reviewers and people that have seen the show that say you don't need to see season 1 and 2, they don't matter, just watch season 3. But he's using it here to criticize the show, but it's not. The show never told you that. According to the show, seasons 1 and 2 happened, and there's some things in it that are supposed to be the same. But for the most part, you can ignore it if you want to, and it's not going to be a big deal. But that's not what the show told you. The showrunners didn't say that. Paramount didn't say that. None of the writers said that. Anyway, it's a little thing, but it's like, what? Why? That's not. I know they're telling us to ignore the previous season. No, they're not. I mean, I would do that for your health. I ignore seasons 1 and 2 because I don't want to think about ending myself. So I don't think about seasons 1 and 2. And my life sucks, but I still don't. I'm still alive. Here I am. I might actually be more miserable than these two in reality, but at least I can like something that I think is good, or give positive feedback to something, even if I don't like it mostly.
Even though they keep bringing it up. But in season 1, when he went to Starfleet headquarters to talk to Admiral Sheer Effin Hubris, wasn't there a running joke that nobody even knew who Picard was?
Yes.
This scene with the cadets, I'm assuming they were cadets, it wouldn't have bothered me if it was just that single one that just happened to see him in the restaurant.
All right, so in season 1, the young receptionist person at the beginning didn't really know who he was, right? Like, so that's understandable. Someone didn't recognize him. So the point was he didn't get recognized right away, so it feels weird. It's cold. Then he goes up to the Admiral, and she just dresses him down or whatever. So yes, I didn't like that either. That's why I choose to not really bring it up, because I think season 3 represents Starfleet, Picard, and everybody much better. That's why I ignore season 1 and 2. That's why you probably should ignore it. That's why you just proved the point why you should probably ignore those seasons. Because here's a proper representation of cadets and people wanting to hear from Picard and accepting him, and it's the way you'd want him to be remembered instead of nobody remembering him. So, like, it's weird. There's like a paradox happening here or something. You know what I mean? Like, what? This is what we're nitpicking. I'm gonna calm down. You know, this cartoon kind of looks like my wife a little bit. Editing this. I'm just gonna start it again. I think Molly and Old Man just DDoSed me because they were so mad I was talking about them.
Through Star Trek's history, they've always used nautical references, but this just felt, like I said last week, they were treating this like a submarine that was falling down into the deep trenches of the ocean, and it was going to get crushed at the bottom by the sheer ocean pressures. That's how they were treating this. And I don't mean, well, sort of like that. That's the analogy. I mean, no, the background noises. It felt like that's exactly what they were doing, this was a submarine.
Well, yeah, and then the creaking of the ship sounded a lot like a submarine succumb.
You know what? I just don't get why this is a problem. Submarines and starships have always been comparable. Submarine battles have always been comparable. They did it in the original Star Trek movies. Why is this a criticism? They wanted to give you the feel of the isolation of a submarine, you know, fading into the abyss. Why is this a criticism? I think we're up to 6 negatives now. No positives.
Coming to pressure.
I've watched lots of submarine films and television shows.
Then you would think you'd be like, I've seen this before. Yeah, this is exactly like that. And they literally tried to make you feel that way. Yes, they tried to make you feel that way. And the fact that you are saying that that's how you felt means they accomplished that. Why is that a problem? What the fuck are we talking about?
And I know what that type of sound sounds like. They were...
Oh my God. Well, of course. I'm glad you do. They do too, because they watch submarine movies and they wanted to feel that way, and they wanted you to feel that way, and now you do, and you say, that's stupid that they made me feel that way. Why? Why is it stupid? Because it's not a submarine? It's kind of like a submarine, so they wanted you to feel like it was like a submarine. Because that feeling is kind of scary. What the fuck? My head's gonna explode, bro.
We're taking the nautical references way, way too far here. But it was weird because...
No, they're not. No, they're not. They could take the nautical references so much further than this. You know what I mean? They could take they could go insane with the references. Other sci-fi shows have done it. Even Star Trek at times has somewhat done it. They could take it way farther than this. You could argue they didn't do it enough. I think.
They wouldn't use nautical phrases. They were using phrases like...
You mean like port and starboard that they've used in Star Trek since the beginning? Port, starboard, come about. Have you ever watched fucking Star Trek? It's been described as a fucking nautical adventure in space. Horatio Hornblower, and etc., 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 etc. I think you just hate shit because you aren't coming. I'm sorry, but this is fucking crazy at this point. I'm gonna snap.
Biology, like hemorrhaging. And they were using that through the whole episode. It was really, really weird.
Now they got a problem with the fact that the space entity, Nebula, they're relating it to biology. Because eventually we're going to find out that it's a creature giving birth of some kind to babies. So now they have a problem with using biology to describe something that's somewhat related to biological life. All right, I'm going to calm down.
Weird.
Yeah, it was kind of like some sort of weird naval hospital matchup. It was so strange. Yeah.
It always has been. It always was.
Yeah, I mean, the ship was damaged, and they're talking about how they're hemorrhaging and they're bleeding. It was weird the way they were talking about it, and so they've diverted power to life support. These bioelectric...
I mean, maybe I could give you that criticism, I guess. We're hemorrhaging, we're bleeding. All right. I mean, I could see that. You don't like that? Fine. Weird.
Waves keep coming, and it's done a number on their shields, and now they have to lower their shields in between each wave, or else with the next wave they're going to lose shields altogether.
Wait till you hear later what these bio waves actually were. That's going to be a fun time.
So Riker goes to see Picard, and he tells Picard that
I can't imagine this guy ever having a fun time. Can you? I can't imagine it. The only time he ever has that's fun is when he roofies the bitch on the left and does what he really wants to do, cornhole and anus. Sorry.
Titan is dead in the water, and they have like 4 hours till they're going to get crushed in the gravity well, unless they die first from no life support. And he tells Picard that he was right, and...
Anyway, guys, that's been part 1 of my review of the reviews, Nitpicking the Nitpickers. This is Star Trek Late Night, and if you want more, please tell me in the comments section down below. But if this isn't your thing, then tell me to stop as well. I'm excited for Episode 5 of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 5. It is coming, and I heard it's going to be a good time. It's going to be nostalgic, to say the least. Episode 5, that's what I've heard. We'll see what happens. I heard Episode 4 was a banger, and it was, to me.
And they're talking about how they're hemorrhaging and they're bleeding. It was weird the way they were talking about it, and so they've diverted power to life support. These bioelectric waves keep coming, and it's done a number on their shields, and now they have to lower their shields in between each wave, or else with the next wave they're going to lose shields altogether.
Wait till you hear later what these bio waves actually were. That's going to be...
In an afterlife, he had to...
Here we go.
This, and nothing was looking back at him. And it actually gets worse because it was infinite. I'm just sitting there like, so
he watched his son died, which is horrible that that's even in the story. But Riker's son died, and he looked down, and when you lose a child as a parent, no matter how positive your life is in Star Trek in the future, you're going to start maybe questioning some things and having some problems. And his wife is a counselor who is an empath, right? And so she can feel all his emotions. So I think that's actually a pretty interesting and compelling story that they came up with based on the horrible story that was this horrible idea that happened to Riker from season 1. But they really utilized it in a wonderful way. And being someone that, I lost my father when I was 8, I felt this way. At 8 years old, I said, and maybe that's why I've had such a struggle my whole life, because I feel like, is there any point in anything? Why are we here? Like, what is this? Like, it's hopeless feeling. So, I don't know how you can't understand that.
Looked into the shit abyss and nothing was looking back at him. And it actually gets worse because it turns out Riker is struggling with belief in an afterlife. He had to leave Deanna because he didn't feel anything and she could sense that. Apparently that was
First, he didn't leave Deanna. Like, they didn't break up. He just had to get away. He always wants to get away. He does what he can to get away because he feels like he's hurting her by being around. Like, that's interesting to me and sad, but real. And I guess, I understand this with the story that they're telling with that. That's a very interesting thing.
Very difficult for her. I'm just like, oh my goodness gracious.
This whole scene bothered me because last week in our comments there were people telling us, well, you have to understand how deeply that Riker's son's death affected him. That's why he was snapping off at Picard on the bridge about, well, you just killed everybody. That stupid line.
I didn't like that line either. And again, I think that all they had to do was have Riker say, "Get off the bridge," and then he could turn and go, "You've just killed us all." And then it could have zoomed in on him. So, but when he yelled, "You just killed us all," in front of everybody, that was like, ugh. So I didn't like that. But whatever. It's a very crazy moment. But Riker is very emotional and out of his element. Picard, they're in a dangerous situation. Whatever. So fine. Okay. It's not a big deal to me. I didn't. That's the worst line of all 4 shows so far, of all 4 episodes so far. I didn't agree with it either. I thought they could have handled it the way I just told you, but whatever. But that's a valid criticism. So that's something that they've said here that I guess that's one thing I agree with so far a little bit.
I was trying to figure out after watching this. Riker was saying, again, somebody correct me, maybe he had more than one son, but I believe Thad was his name from season 1 of Picard. Thad was in that episode, or they talked of Thad. Riker and Troy were in this episode because we went back and we looked at that episode, we skimmed through it to make sure, what are we talking about here? His son, at least Thad, Troy said they were looking at a picture that he would have been 18 this year. So the implication is that when he died, he was less than 18. So I'm assuming he didn't die in Starfleet. 2, she said that he died because of some sort of virus. It was some silicon-based virus. And in season 1, because they outlawed artificial life forms,
oh my God,
the cure for that...
I don't want to sit on season 1 anymore.
Died in action. He was also in the Navy. Bridger felt guilty then and now about why maybe somebody would be hesitant to take military action in a situation if it caused the death of somebody, in this case, his son. But in this case, I don't understand it. Riker said after he looked down into the grave that he felt nothing, and he has felt nothing ever since. So if you were scared for people, that's not a nothing feeling. That's a something feeling. I did not understand this at all.
Yeah, because Riker said to Picard he was running from this only to find it again. Well, clearly Riker must have meant that he was running from death. To me, it came across more like he was running from his own mortality than anything else, because...
No, I think it's he was running. He's running from facing the emotions. It's actually kind of similar to Picard in Star Trek Generations, dealing with the death of his nephew and brother, and Data having to deal with his emotion chip. Riker is running from his emotions, but he's also running from the emotional pain that he's delivering to Deanna from his emotions. So he's not just running from his emotions and the emptiness of losing his son. He's running to relieve Deanna of his sadness and emotions. So I feel like I understand that, and I have a GED.
You would think that instead of just curling up in a ball and saying this is the end and telling Picard to get his affairs in order and go get to know his son, you think Riker would have been doing everything in his power to try to save the lives of his crew. But no, instead he's there by himself trying to compose a message to Deanna. It was so selfish. So
I believe that they've put out about 30 negatives at this point. We are only 8 minutes into their review, and I swear to God they've said 30 negative things, and I think 0 positive things. And so far, I think I've slightly agreed with them on 2 things. This is the 3rd thing, and I've already stated it, so I'm not going to go over it again. But yes, they could have been working on anything to try to fix things, and they could have had the engineers explain that they're working on something, and Riker's like, well, this is beyond my knowledge, and I'm thinking of, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna brainstorm, and I'm gonna look through some records, and I'm gonna see if, something could be done. And then he takes a break from that to leave Deanna a message, and that would show that they're not completely just saying, oh yeah, we're dead, forget it. But that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, even if they had done that, it's just, this is a nitpick in a way. I wish they were doing that. And again, like I said, I wish that they thought that a plan A was being worked on by the engineers or other people. And then in the end, it doesn't work, and that's when they go to the next thing, which is the thing that happens with Jack and everything. But anyway, but this is meaningful for the story and for the character development. And so I really don't want it taken out. And you see how I have an answer to sort of cover it up a little bit or fluff it up a little bit, but still sticking with the story that was written. And the story that was written so far, man, I really love it. Like, I really do, for the fact that they had, I don't know how long it took to write this, 2 weeks to 6 weeks. I don't know. I'd probably ask Terry Metalis or something. But, oh man, it was so well done. But the idea that everything is a problem is crazy.
So clearly, this wasn't about death in general. This was about his own mortality.
And he apologized.
I don't think it was about his own mortality at all. I don't, that part I don't get. I mean, it's about his view of the afterlife and his view of everyone's mortality. It's about how, what's the point if there's nothing? And then at the end of this episode, when there's a birth of life, Riker sees that, death and life, and it's an ongoing thing, and there are beautiful things still in this universe, and this is why we live, this is why we exist, for this type of moment. And so that sort of sparks his belief back up again, and that sort of thing. So that, his outlook on life and why are we here, and that's what it's about. It's not about his own mortality. It's literally about how he feels about, I think, everybody's mortality and where we go and what does it matter, and will I see my son again, type of thing. I don't know. That's my take on it.
In a way to Picard in this scene. So that was, I suppose, a way to say, look, I had psychological reasons for this, for snapping off at you, but you were right. But then later, after this scene, he reverts back to what he was doing in that last episode.
Well, plus in this scene, he's telling Picard how he's been basically all over the universe, and he hasn't seen anything to lead him to believe that there is any kind of afterlife, which came across like it was some serious bullshit, because Riker has seen things that would indicate that there are different planes of existence. It just felt like...
Yeah, this part kind of did remind me of the Indiana Jones thing in the trailer from the new Indiana Jones movie, where he's like, I don't believe in superstition and whatever the hell Indiana. I don't even remember the line, but he says something like, I don't believe, I've seen things that would make you wouldn't believe, that seem supernatural, but I don't believe in that. And it's like, what? You've seen all these things, you don't believe in it? So you would think that Riker would think that, there is something. I mean, I've seen gods. I've seen Q and things like entities and beings. But in the end, it's not going to bring his son back, and he has that depression and sadness. And he has sadness over being sad is making Deanna sad. So no matter what Q and powerful aliens and entities are out there, he still doesn't have an answer to why he's here and what that means for him when he's dead. So it's a lot of things all rolled into one, but I don't think you can 100% know this.
They were dismissing all of that.
You had situations like Q. You had situations like when the Traveler took them outside of normal reality. Now, I'm not saying that Riker should believe in the old traditional Judeo-Christian type stuff, but there should be enough proof in his mind that we do not understand the universe and there could be endless possibilities. He has seen that in The Next Generation. I mentioned 2 instances. I could go on if I wanted to and list many more. So that didn't make any sense to me. Yes, is there an old man with a beard up there? I could see where maybe he's not believing that, and that the...
Listen, a potential God could come down to Earth now and tell me that he's God and do something magical in front of me, and I'd be like, oh my God. But then if my son died and I was living through that and never saw that God, I still wouldn't feel great about where I'm going and what's happening. I still wouldn't know what's really going on, and will I see him? Unless God came down with my son and said, you'll see him again. You know what I mean? I would think, I don't know what's beyond this. So I don't know.
The soul goes up to the old man with the beard, but that there are different planes of existence.
is it. This is all you get. So you better try to hang on to it. He was responsible for an entire ship full of people, and he basically just curled up into a ball and said, there is no afterlife. We're all dying. Sorry. Not even sorry, because actually he spent his whole time trying to compose a message to Deanna.
Yeah, you didn't see him. And I understand Jonathan Frakes directed this episode as well. He directed last week. You didn't, after this scene, you didn't see Riker again, the character Riker, until toward the end. I was sitting there going, well, what the heck has Riker been doing this whole episode?
Trying to compose a message to Deanna. Like I said, if he really is having that crisis of faith where he doesn't believe that anything exists
Riker could have been working on some things.
After this mortal existence, then my God, shouldn't he be doing everything he can to hang on to it?
This episode had a complete bucket full of dime store philosophy.
It was horrible.
Not good kind. It had the illusion of philosophy. And it's so disappointing when I hear people defending actions of these characters based on what they believe are higher level philosophy. And I have no doubt these people in their lives, real people commenting, have these real experiences in their lives that would back up certain behavior changes. But what was presented in last week's episode and this week's episode, that wasn't presented. You're introducing your own feelings into this show that hasn't been presented on screen. Because all throughout this whole episode, I was telling Molly, there were some pieces, some scenes in this episode that could have worked. But I was looking at Molly going, did we miss a scene? Is there a director's cut here? Because we're missing some...
I think they are missing. I think they really want every little detail explained. It sounds like that to me. That they want, like, everything explained. Why there were 9 cadets that went up to the table. What was Riker doing off camera? And it's like, I just take it as it's not that big a deal. He was doing something, and but the main story was conveyed. You know what I mean? Otherwise, we'd be doing 20 episodes, and that would be too slow, and it would end up being like the first and second season where the story inched along so slowly. You know what I mean? Yeah, we're sacrificing maybe some more... I don't know. I just don't have a problem with this. I understand what they're saying a little bit, but no.
Connecting scene here, setting this next scene up, that might have made this scene work. There were so many scenes, especially in the first half of this episode, where I think...
How did the scene not work? That's what I want to know. It sounds like you wanted more from Riker and more scenes from him, but how did this particular scene not work? Was it edited wrong? Was the dialogue wrong? Like, was it too dark in the room? Because it is pretty dark. I mean, how does the scene not work? Because for me, the scene works. Now, maybe you don't like the story and the way the character is acting, but how does the scene not work?
There might have been some good scenes there if they would have had a scene before it setting up what they were doing.
Yeah. Seven's going searching for the changeling. She finds...
What is the scene that doesn't work that they set everything up, I feel like, didn't they? They set up Seven here going to look for the changeling. They set up Riker explaining to Picard how he feels and what's going on. So that sets up him then going to record to Deanna. Now, Riker does really remind me of Malcolm in Star Trek Enterprise on Shuttlepod 1 or whatever it was, where he's like, I'm just going to record messages to my family. You know, Riker goes full Malcolm Reed here. And he's like, there's nothing else that can be done. Deanna, like, here's what oh, never mind, I can't do it. It's just really like, I imagine when Enterprise was out, somebody was like, how could Malcolm Reed do that? You know, that was the whole point of that episode. You know what I mean? So, Trip was like, I'm not going to quit. We're not going to quit. Don't you say die. Don't record nothing. We're going to try to save ourselves. And Riker's Malcolm Reed here at this point, which I think I get that part, not liking that, because I'm a big Riker guy, and he's somebody who never gave up. He was always like, absolutely not. Like, I'm going to fight till the very end. And that was a criticism I had, that I thought, like I said, I thought that Riker could have been doing a little bit more. And I said that. But to dwell on it that the scene doesn't work and these other things, well, because the character's not acting the way that you want them to all the time, it doesn't work. You know, his son died. It's a little bit of a different character, to be honest. It's still Riker, very much Riker, but he's got that little chip on his shoulder of darkness from his son dying. And you can't ignore that, you know? But I get it.
Ensign Foster, and he's been dead for days. He was dead and replaced by a changeling. That would indicate that there was a changeling already there for some reason on this ship. So she goes to Riker. He tells her to keep it quiet because morale is just so bad. And she's like, well, why don't you reinstate me? And he's like, no, see, I could reinstate you, but I want you to investigate this in an unofficial capacity. Then tells her to go get the bastard.
And later on in the
It's
episode,
a very Riker thing, by the way. Go get the bastard. That's a Riker. That's when somebody does wrong to Riker or to somebody Riker cares about, he gets that way.
there was a pursuing scene, we'll just call it. I was telling Molly, in every other iteration of Star Trek, because this isn't Star Trek, what is wrong with having some sort of intruder alert and posting security guards all around the ship? Because that's another thing. This ship seems like it has at most 25 people on it. I don't know what the complement is of this type of ship, but it seems like 25, and most of those people are on the bridge.
Yeah.
And they don't have any security. No security guards at all of any consequence. I don't understand how a ship...
Wait a minute. All right. First of all, we've already seen security guards. I'm pretty sure. We've seen, I think, security guards multiple times. Isn't last episode the episode where Jack was denied entry to the bridge because there was a security officer posted there? Wasn't there a security officer posted outside the door of 7 in the previous episode? Wasn't there another security officer who was guarding Jack who was locked in the room? I've already seen 4 to 5 security officers. What are they talking about that there's no security officers? They just make stuff up in a narrative and then say that that's what it is. What are you talking about? I've counted several security officers already. What are we talking about, bro?
like this can function.
It felt like I was watching.
You don't see the engine room because of budget. By the way, really quickly, I don't think people understand. The budget on season 3 is not even close to the budget of Discovery, Strange New Worlds, or the budget of Picard season 1. Can you imagine? It's almost fucking not fair that such a brilliant story and all this stuff was done on a budget that was snapped in half, and they were able to do this stuff. I think it was genius how they reused certain sets and how they story told around the limits of a budget. And I think that that's something that's going to come out later at some point, how badly they were squeezed on budget due to paying the actors that had to come back on the show and the fact that the first 2 seasons weren't exactly great. So all of that, and now we know a lot of Star Trek is getting canceled, and there's only a few things left, and that's courtesy of Picard season 1 and 2 failing, and Discovery failing, and not a ton of people being interested in cartoons, and that's all mistakes that if I was in charge wouldn't have happened. But what do I know? I have a GED, and I'm a moron sitting in my fucking basement right now, and I'm a loser, and I hate myself, and so here I am listening to 2 people who apparently hate Star Trek Picard season 3.
All of any consequence. I don't understand how a ship like this can function.
It felt like I was watching an episode of Discovery. It really did.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
the
my God.
disjointed crap storytelling, where's all the crew? It was bizarre. But I'll get to why.
We saw all the medics in the medical bay in the medical office. We've seen sick bay has a full complement of doctors and nurses. We've seen 5 security guards so far. If you go watch Star Trek The Next Generation and you watch 4 or 5 episodes, you'll see about the same. What the hell has changed? What's changed is now you hate shit. I don't understand this.
Why that was such a problem in a minute. So then we get to see Beverly and Jack, and Beverly is counting down to the next electrical impulse.
By the way, this was a great scene because 7 of 9 was in the previous scene, and as they cut away from 7, the first thing you hear is 7, 6, 5. I think that's this part. I might be wrong, but I think that's this part. And that is such a Fifth Element thing to do. And I forget what the term is called in movies and storytelling, but it's like, you see 7, then you hear someone say 7, and you're like, oh, whoa, what's going on? 6, 5, oh, like, and it's sort of like, it's something that it's so little and small, but it's a transitional thing that just kind of wakes you up or makes you go, oh, it makes you think for a second or snap or kind of move. It's a small little stimulating trick, and it's done a lot in the movie The Fifth Element and in several other movies, but very well done where the next scene finishes. It's not quite the way The Fifth Element did it, but it's and I don't know what it's called, but it's I thought it was cute. Anyway, I thought it was neat. I'm easily impressed by it, I suppose.
Then Picard shows up and asks for a moment or two with Jack. So, of course, that was granted. So then we see Seven go visit Captain Shaw in his quarters, and she tells him there's a changeling on board. I mean, she was saying that nobody knows the ship better than he does.
I don't agree with some of the dialogue. I thought some of the dialogue is immature, and I don't like that. That's my criticism. Like, Captain Shaw is constantly saying stupid, like dipshit and stupid head and dumb, and I don't like that. The fans love it, though. The fans have really caught on to dipshit from Chicago and all that sort of thing, and it was cute. And so it's nice, and people like it. So, what am I going to say about it? I do think some of the language is a little bit immature and just not Star Trek to me. And you can back that up by watching The Next Generation and the original series, Voyager. You wouldn't hear people saying, I'm some dipshit from, or dumbhead from, It's just a little weird to me. And I think Captain Shaw is a little bit, mentally out of it to be a captain, but that's my opinion. Whatever. That's my criticism. But, okay.
And that's why she went to go see him. I mean, it was really, really weird.
And then he was cooperating. This is one of these scenes where I wish there was a scene before, because that conversation turned from the ship better than anybody else to Seven saying, I haven't seen a changeling before. This is an example of where a connecting scene, a scene before this one, would have helped make this make more sense. So if I was going to make up a scene, what I would have done is something like Seven going to a computer console, searching changelings, getting some data, her saying something like, this is going to be difficult. I wonder if there's anybody that's had firsthand experience on the ship with change.
She does it in the scene. In the scene, they're talking about this in the changeling. And she basically tips off Shaw that she doesn't really know that much about changelings. And then he delivers that information to her right there. Why shoot another scene to build that at this point? Like, I don't get this criticism. Yeah, okay, you could have done that, but remember, this is like a movie. It's sort of like a movie, but it's a TV series. It's somewhere in between, right? On a TV series, maybe you would have some of that. In a movie, you cut scenes to make things progress faster when you don't need it. And this is one of those cases. Absolutely no, do I think we need another scene of finding out Seven doesn't know about the changelings and needs to learn more from Shaw. We literally find that out right here. Why do that?
Changelings, and then Shaw's name coming up. That scene before this.
Why would Shaw's name come up? And then all of a sudden you'd be criticizing that, Shaw just happens to know about changelings. Instead, it's like, no, he's a little bit older. He's been around this time of the changelings, so he understands them a little bit better. And even he doesn't know that much about them, but he knows a little bit more than Seven, and now he's delivering that. And he's also telling the audience that may not know DS9, too. So if you don't know Deep Space Nine, Shaw is delivering some sort of background and exposition about the changelings to all of us at the same time, killing two birds with one stone. I have no problem with this. I don't understand the criticism.
Scene would have made a lot of sense.
That would have made a lot more sense.
No, it wouldn't have.
But
no, it wouldn't
that's
have.
not
No,
the
it fucking wouldn't have. It would have taken up
case.
more time, and it would have fucking taken up more time.
It's, well, you know the ship better than anybody else. Okay, that's the beginning of a conversation, but then the conversation changes from that immediately to, well, here's what changelings are. They're these big things of goop. And he starts talking about goop and stuff because he's an expert in changelings. That's not why Seven came there to begin with. It was like I was missing a scene. It's not like this scene with Seven and him was necessarily bad, but it was all disjointed. Where was the scene before this that set up this conversation?
Yeah, because then Shaw starts telling Seven how sorry he is that they got off on the wrong foot, and she's agreed.
It's just a conversation. You know what I mean? You have a conversation with someone. Sometimes you bring up several different things. Somebody comes in your office and wants to talk about the meeting Tuesday, and then you're like, yeah, let's take a look on the meeting Tuesday. And then you go, hey, I'm sorry about yesterday, too, by the way, when I yelled at you. I was upset at something else. Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Well, anyway, yeah, Tuesday, we got an appointment at 1. You want to be in at Tuesday? Okay, yeah, sounds good to me. Hey, what's it like outside? Is the weather crazy? Yeah, it is. Why did they talk about all these different things? You know, like, what? Conversations go that way sometimes. I don't get it.
They can scan for the biosigns of the goo. And it's like, really? I mean, maybe I could be wrong. I don't remember Odo leaving goo all over the place like some sort of slug.
I understand in the 90s, the early to mid 90s, that computer effects were very, very primitive compared to now.
I'm pretty sure, by the way, that we're going to find out there's a reason why the changeling goo looks a little different. It's not just that we've got, that could be wrong. I don't think it's just that, oh, the CGI is way better, so they did this with it. You know what I mean? I think it's that something's different going on here that we don't know about potentially. Maybe. If it's not that, then okay. But I think that's something. And listen, I'm a glass half empty type of guy, and I enjoyed it. So far, we don't have a positive from Molly and the old man here, but we'll continue reviewing this entire video next. So stick around for part 2 because the video is coming. This is Star Trek Late Night. Now watch more videos and make sure you subscribe if you're brand new. And let me know what you think about this video, and I will keep pumping out more. Also, apologies for some of the insults to Molly and the old man. I do like them. I just am confused and baffled by them, and I definitely respect their rights to hate on anything they want to, because certainly God knows I do it. But I think that the team, the writers, and the people that worked on Season 3 deserve more credit than is given in this 49-minute bashing. All right, I'm really going this time. Leave a comment.